A lot of people knew that last month I was frantically trying to get my Coast to Coast digital album completed before my photo credits ran out. And quite a few people said, oh, we'd love to see it when you finished. So this is the Coast to Coast digital album. It's very much a summary. I've got 5 D-Ring albums of proper scrapbook pages, but this is just a summary digital book. So our Coast to Coast trip in 2019. So opening page, just showing I wanted to have the route. So we flew into Boston, we went up into New England, into New Hampshire and Maine. We then detoured into Canada, we went to Montreal and Ottawa and Toronto, revisited Niagara, and then we went round Lake Erie, Lake Michigan, Chicago, all the way up to North Dakota, then down through the middle. I'll come to that again a bit later. We picked up Route 66 in Oklahoma and carried on with Route 66 across, went to San Diego and then up to just outside LA for our last few days. One of the points of the trip was that we wanted to go coast to coast. We hadn't figured we would go north to south as well. But we wanted to dip our feet in both oceans, which we did. It's very much a diary album. So day one was traveling, getting ready. We make tour tops when we go away. So we had hoodies this year. You'll see, I think there's some photos of what was on the back because the back was far more impressive than the front. But we had tour hoodies. So that was traveling over. This was, although it's day 2, it was our first day there, and one of the first things we did was we went to York Beach in Maine, and it was just probably about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning when we went into the water, and it was absolutely freezing to the extent that Nigel said, do you think you can do serious damage getting your feet this cold? But that was our dip in the Atlantic Ocean. This was in Montreal, and it's the Basilica of Notre Dame, which I have to say is one of the most beautiful churches I've ever visited. And so these are some more pictures of us at York Beach. You can see how early in the morning it was, and it was seriously cold. Just some photos of driving through Vermont in the fall. The colours were beautiful. This was October, and it was a spectacular fall this year. We then went from Montreal to Ottawa, and Ottawa was really beautiful. It was raining, which wasn't fabulous. We didn't have great weather all the time we were in Canada. In Montreal, we were hit by a bomb cyclone, but Ottawa was just damp. So we've got some photos of Ottawa again, the fall colours looking absolutely spectacular. And that's the state capitol, the Parliament buildings. We then headed through Toronto to Niagara. We'd been to Niagara 30 years ago and we had no money. We stayed in Buffalo. We had a very bad experience with the hotel. So this year we decided we'd do it properly. And that's the view from our room. So we actually stayed with a falls view this time. And some more pictures of Niagara. It was very windy, as you can see. We then travelled back into America and round Lake Erie. And we'd never been to any of the Great Lakes before, and they were absolutely beautiful. So big, yes, they looked like the ocean. That's actually Luna Pier in Michigan. These are Lake Erie. And again, the fall colours were absolutely spectacular. Nigel had always wanted to go to Chicago, and so we went to Chicago. Didn't have the greatest of arrivals. It had a bit of an edge to it where we parked, but actually walking around Chicago was beautiful. It's somewhere that we will go back to. One of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to do the start of Route 66. We knew we weren't going to do the first part of the route, but at least we could see the start of it. Also, we continued from Chicago into Wisconsin, and we went to Madison, which is the state capital. The state capital building was beautiful, and we were really surprised it was open to the public. There was no charge to go in, and we spent a very pleasant time just wandering around. You could go anywhere. We went into the Supreme Court. There were guides telling you all about it, so we did like Madison. One of the things we wanted to see in Chicago was Cloud Gate, and it was absolutely fascinating. It was another one of those places that you just couldn't stop taking photos of. It was beautiful. And some more pictures. That's us at the start of Route 66, and just some general pictures of Chicago. From there we went into Minnesota, and we stopped off in Rochester. Barb is a friend that I've known for years. We made friends online. She's a fellow scrapbooker, and we'd never met, and it was just absolutely wonderful to meet her and her husband. We spent a really lovely day with them, and just so special. We then had a rest day where we were in Minneapolis for the day. We went to the Mall of America. It was Nigel's birthday that day. We went to the Sculpture Gardens. We went to, that's Minnehaha Park and Minnehaha Falls. That was just a nice, quiet day from traveling. One of the states we hadn't been to was North Dakota, so we planned to go to North Dakota. It was quite a day. We travelled all the way through Minnesota, and we're great fans of Lake Wobegon and Prairie Home Companion. It's not a real place, but there is the Lake Wobegon Trail. So we made a point of going to the Lake Wobegon Trail, which we couldn't find. And whilst we were stopped trying to work out where to go, the sheriff went by, and then he went by again. And then the third time he stopped, and he obviously thought we looked a bit suspect and asked what we needed. And he helped us to find it, and we spent ages chatting to him. He was a great guy. From there, we went up to Fargo. So, of course, you have to have the Fargo shot. They lent us hats for the picture. And we had a somewhat difficult journey then down from North Dakota through to South Dakota, but we made it to Sioux Falls by the end of the day. That was another quiet day of really just travelling and meandering. We drove through Iowa, then into Nebraska, did some shopping. That was a brand new Joann that had just opened in Omaha, and the wool was amazing, and I did buy quite a lot of wool. This was one of my favourite days. We then drove into Kansas. When we realised we were going to Kansas, there were two things that we wanted to do. The first one was in Kansas, in a town called Lebanon, is the geographical centre of the 48 contiguous states, and it just had us written all over it. We expected it to be tacky and awful and something and nothing, and it was actually so beautifully done. There was a little chapel there, there was a beautiful garden, the sign saying that was where the centre was. And from there, Nigel wanted to go to Dodge City, because what else do you do when you're in Kansas? You go to Dodge City. And that was fantastic too. We went to the Boot Hill Museum. They had Front Street recreated. They had the Boot Hill Cemetery, fantastic exhibitions. We went into the Long Branch Saloon and had a drink, and it was wonderful. So that's at Lebanon, where the geographical centre is. Another one of those travelling. That was our car. That was really to showcase the car that we had. It was a Chrysler Pacifica, and it was the most luxurious vehicle that we've had on any of our road trips, which, considering we did 6,000 plus miles, it was good we had a nice car. That's in Boot Hill, and that's the Long Branch Saloon. That's going up to the Boot Hill Cemetery. And then the next day we hit Route 66, and it was unbelievable. Everything about it, from the really kitsch and tacky to very moving in places, and quite sad when you see these abandoned towns that were just lost when the freeway took people away from the mother road. It snowed. It snowed in Kansas and in Texas. We weren't expecting snow in Texas. It had pretty much gone, apart from a few bits on the ground by the time we got there. But this was one of those unexpected things you see on the side of the road. It was a windmill museum. One of the real icons of Route 66 is the Conoco Tower and the U-Drop Inn. It's at Shamrock in Texas, and so it's right there, and was absolutely fascinating to go and visit, and like seeing something out of Cars, the movie. This isn't an original Route 66 place to visit. It's relatively new. It's a huge giant cross, and it was a very moving, very spiritual experience that we had there. And it was nice to do something like that and to get away from the utter tackiness of things like this, which is the Cadillac Ranch. Literally 6 caddies planted in the ground in a very muddy field that people enjoy going to put graffiti on, so it had to be seen. We were going to put some graffiti on ourselves, but as you can see, it was an absolute quagmire and you had to paddle through mud and still some snow to get to them, so we just looked. From there, we travelled down through Tucumcari, another Route 66 town, to Albuquerque. And in Albuquerque, I was able to meet up with another online friend who I'm on a digital scrapbooking team with. So it was great to meet up with Kay as well. These were just some of the iconic hotels and motels on Route 66. Blue Swallow is one of the most famous. We've got Wigwam Motel, the Cactus Inn, and they're everywhere. One of the things that Nigel said when we were planning the route was we have to go to Sedona. Sedona has us written all over it. It's beautiful. So on this day, we headed through Holbrook. We went to the Wigwam Motel. We went to the Painted Desert. We went to Winslow. We're big Eagles fans, and at Winslow you can stand on the corner and they have the Eagles music playing. They've got a lovely pair of statues, and so you stand on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. These are Sedona, and this was the amazing Holy Cross Chapel, which is literally carved into the side of the red rocks and was stunningly beautiful inside. So these are more pictures of Sedona. It's starting to get a bit warmer during the days. We'd had some very, very cold weather. Nigel standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. Driving through Sedona. Sedona was beautiful, but what it did make us realise was how important the national parks are, because Sedona isn't a national park. And so in amongst all this beauty, you've got towns, beautifully done towns, but we're quite used to the national parks where it really is preserved and there aren't houses, there aren't settlements, it's natural beauty. We stayed in Flagstaff for 2 nights and we went back to the Grand Canyon this day. It was, I think, the coldest I've ever been. It was -16 when we got out of the car, and of course it was the one day we didn't have all our luggage with us. Nigel said, whatever we've got in the car, you need to put on, because it was freezing. It had actually started to warm up a little bit by then, so we've only got 3 or 4 layers on, but it was cold, but so beautiful. And we came back to Flagstaff through the last town that was bypassed of Route 66, which was Williams. This is us buying our National Parks Pass, because the plan was in 2020, we were doing another trip where we were going to be going to 12 national parks. So we bought an America the Beautiful pass. We never used it because COVID hit, so we didn't go. Trying to look warm-ish at the Grand Canyon. And this was Williams, which was an absolutely fantastic town to go and visit. So many restored buildings to go and see, including one of the brothels there, the Red Garter, a fully restored garage, we spent ages wandering up and down the roads there. And that's more of Williams. This day was going again on Route 66, but the longest continuous stretch of Route 66 that you can drive on. You pick it up at Ashfork and it goes all the way down to Oatman, which was one of the most bizarre places that we've been to. So we went through towns like Seligman. We went to the Roadkill Cafe for breakfast. We went to Oatman, and we also, why not, went to see London Bridge, because what else do you do when you're in Arizona? Route 66 is now such a major tourist route, and it's largely due to this man who is Angel Delgadillo, who started the historic Route 66 Society in his town of Seligman, where he had a shop. And because of the work that he did, other towns picked it up, and he really started the movement to preserve all that was on Route 66 for people to enjoy. He has a barber shop in Seligman. He still goes in, he still cuts hair, and that is digital magic. That isn't him, that's a cardboard cutout of him, because he wasn't in the store the day that we went. This is Oatman, which was an old mining town, and it's possibly the most bizarre place I've ever visited in my life. It's utterly fascinating, utterly tacky and horrible, so bizarre. The wild burros still roam around who were taken there by the miners. Some of it is original, some of it is new. It's right up in this mountain pass. Just an incredible place to visit. Lake Havasu City, which was actually so beautiful, and the story of how the town was created by a businessman who bought London Bridge is quite an interesting one to read, and it was a lovely visit there. We then drove to San Diego, and it was a much nicer experience to go in the Pacific Ocean. It was warm. We went to Coronado del Mar, which, for those of you who are Disney fans, it's the original hotel that the Grand Floridian was based on. We enjoyed walking around the old town. It was Halloween, and they had a Dia de Muertos festival on in the old town in San Diego. We went up to the San Cabrillo Monument, where there's great views of the city. And there had to be a page of us being so proud. That's another of our tour t-shirts that says Coast to Coast on it. We had another day in San Diego. We went to the zoo. We'd been to the San Diego Zoo before, and we're not massive zoo fans, but it is regarded as one of the best zoos in the world, and it's absolutely amazing. The animal habitats are incredible. It's massive. They have a Skyliner that goes round. They have a bus that goes round, and lots of animals that you wouldn't see in the UK as well. And that's just some pictures. We spent ages watching this cougar who had his eyes locked with Nigel for a good 20 minutes. And everybody was commenting, look at that man, he's looking. Nigel we call the cat whisperer, and that's one of the reasons why. We're now in Anaheim, which is an area that we know really well. We've stayed in Anaheim lots of times. One of the things, Nigel has been an Angels supporter for 30 odd years, so we always go. Obviously there was no game on, but we always go to Angels Stadium so he can buy team memorabilia. And we got to have dinner with a very good friend of Nigel's, Barry Briggs, who is a multi-world champion speedway rider, who Nigel is very good friends with. We went round to his house and then we went out to dinner with him. This is the hotel we were based at in Anaheim, and we knew we were going to be there for quite a time, so we had a suite and we had a kitchenette and we had a lounge. It was just lovely. This was the day we went up to Warner Brothers Studios, but we did several other things en route. I'm a huge Grey's Anatomy fan. It's not filmed in Seattle. And this is the Grey's Anatomy atrium, which is actually at Sepulveda. It's a veterans hospital. So we went to see that. We went to see, this is the oldest continuously serving McDonald's in the world. It's McDonald's number 4 at Downey in California. And we also, apart from doing Warner Brothers, we went to see the end of Route 66, which we had done before, but that's the end of the trail. The pictures from the Warner Brothers tour. Nigel sat in the West Wing office, the Friends sets, sitting in Sheldon's spot, of course. So Warner Brothers studio tour. More pictures from Sepulveda. This is a cemetery that we went to visit, which is called the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, where lots of stars are buried. That's the Hollywood sign, and Grauman's on Hollywood Boulevard. And that's us at the end. And that was, we went for dinner afterwards, and that's Nigel's t-shirt. Just some more of the iconic sites of Route 66. This was going up, we went up into the mountains to go back to Big Bear Lake. This is the second Wigwam Motel. We'd been to the Wigwam Motel in Holbrook, which was freezing cold. This was a whole different experience because this was lovely California weather. And again, it's what they based the Cozy Cone Motel on in the Cars movie, so that the wigwams. This is, we went to the McDonald's Museum in Bakersfield, which is the first ever McDonald's. So this is the building that was the first ever McDonald's. It's now a museum, it doesn't operate anymore. And then this is the one that we went to in Downey with the original Golden Arches architecture. So they were both quite interesting to go and visit. And again, Route 66 icon. Some more of the Wigwam Motel. And then this was up in the mountains. We went to Big Bear Lake and spent a day enjoying the lake. And then our last day, we went to Huntington Beach. We went to Balboa, which is one of our favourite places. And it was just appropriate to have the sunset on our final evening. And then our journey back home, loading up, saying goodbye. And finally, I always do, when I do digital albums of our road trips, I always do a numbers page. So that's our numbers page for the Coast to Coast album. And we haven't been back since. I don't know when we'll get back to America, but we've both said it was such an amazing holiday that if we never get to go on another road trip like that, that one will sustain us forever. So thank you for watching.